Welcome to Garden Wise Adventures. My name is Malie. Today I wanted to give you a little update on my food forest. Now, one thing that I wanted to talk about today is patience. When you're installing a new garden, when you're installing a new landscape, the first thing I would love to do is just go buy the plants and plant the plants, and then we could figure out everything later. But it doesn't work well that way. First thing you have to do is the hard stuff that's not very satisfying. And let me show you the hard stuff that I've been doing. It's been about a week since our last update, so let me show you what I've accomplished so far. And it's not that much fun. So let me show you. So you can see there's been a little bit of change. I've been able to spread most of this dirt. The rest of this pile right here, it's just a small mound. It's going to go fill in this area over here. Let me show you why that area was not filled in. But first, before we get there, I did have to leave a little path, I found, because this is taking longer than a week. I have to be able to mow my lawn. As you can see, I haven't mown it in a little while, but I have to be able to get my lawnmower back here, so I had to leave a little path. We've reduced this pile by about half. There's my path for the lawnmower, and I'm actually thinking this may be the path. I'm going to be putting in a flagstone path through the backyard, and I'm finding that this is the path that I pass through the most. So it's helping me to see that, so I know kind of where I'm going to be putting in my flagstone path. So if you plan and think about things and give it a little bit of time, sometimes you can make better decisions. I was thinking about, before I started spreading the soil, I was thinking about taking the path right through the middle here and then sweeping around and coming down through this area. But that has never been an area where I've passed through very much. And what it's going to do, if you notice where the sun is, this area is shade, and I have far less shade perennials and shrubs that I'm going to be putting in than I do ones that need full sun. So if we put the path in through here, if we think about it and plan really carefully, we'll have more sun area, open sun area, to put trees and shrubs in. Now, another thing I had to think about was this downspout. This is our rain downspout. And right here in this open area, we had our little pop-up. It's a green pop-up where all the water comes pouring out, and it poured into the lawn, and it was just fine there. There was no problem with it while it was lawn. But as I started thinking about it, I realized that this area is going to be surrounded by mulch and possibly under the flagstone path. So if I left this as a pop-up here, it was going to make a muddy mess, get in the way. It just wasn't going to work. So I thought about it for a while and thought maybe I can make something useful out of this area. So this pipe over here that comes to this connection, this connection is new. It wasn't there before, but it was a pop-up, as I said. But that's a solid pipe. What I did is I went and I built a trench. It was not fun. It was a lot of digging. So I dug a trench that comes over to here, all the way up under this tree, and then makes a sharp turn and goes to the pop-up over there. And all of this pipe is perforated pipe. Now, the reason why I did that is I thought about, we don't get very much rain here. Every once in a while it'll rain enough that it made a huge puddle here. But what I wanted to do is find a way to make that water useful. Rather than popping up in just one area and making a muddy mess in that area, why not make it so that the entire length of this pipe weeps water, and the soil can utilize that water all the way down and across. Now, this is also on a very slight slope. We never get enough water that it's going to water downstream very much, but it will soak in a little bit that way, especially if we have larger rainstorms. So I figured now, rather than a pain, this area is going to be useful. But it did take me a couple of days of digging, a couple of days of planting, and it's put off the reward of planting a little while. One other thing this trench benefited is once I had the trench dug, I realized that now was the time I could put in my irrigation line. And it became a lot more useful than what I thought in the first place. So down here, under this pile of dirt here, is a pipe that looks like, sorry, there's my shadow, you can't even see the pipe. There's a pipe that looks like this one. This is just a funny pipe that's connected to a PVC pipe down underground. This one is a zone for the food forest. But up under here is one that's attached to the garden beds. So we have one funny pipe over there that feeds the drip on these garden beds. And then I had my irrigation guy stub in a second one so that I could install garden beds on this side. So what I did is I extended the trench out to here, buried my irrigation line. Sorry, here goes the shadow again. Used the same trench as I did the perforated drain pipe and popped it out. And now it's ready to add the garden lines. Whenever I put my garden beds in, the irrigation is ready to go. So then I thought, okay, now that we have the trench that's going this way, we could actually put in irrigation for my pots. So this line is all ready to go. I'm ready to tie in the irrigation for my pots. And then I also thought about it and thought I'm not always going to be using the irrigation for the pots, and I don't want them constantly dripping. So I put in a shutoff valve so I can shut off the irrigation to the pots when I'm not using it. And because I was able to put that line in, I was able to solve another issue that I was having. This area through here is in the shade, and it has all my shade-loving perennials. Now these need a bit more water than the trees in the food forest are going to need. And I was trying to figure out how I was going to do that. I was wondering if once a week I was going to have to come in and hand water. But then I realized, hey, I have my garden line that's going to water 3 times a week. I just tapped into that, as you can see right there. And now this whole bed can be watered with the garden. But it's a small area and it's going to work out beautifully. Now one other project that we got finished that I wanted to show you is this area through here. I was able to add the new drip line. So this area is up and running. It just needs mulch over it and it is completely ready to plant. I need to move some of these rocks out of the way and everything. But even though it's ready to plant, I cannot plant it yet until we get the mulch hauled in. So we still have to wait on planting here. Because as you can see, I don't know if you can see the old tire tracks. I'll be able to move this irrigation line. The irrigation line does move over. But that's a double wide gate, and that's the area where the big dump truck's going to come and dump the mulch. So here's the tire tracks from last time. That's how much room it needs to drive over to get to my backyard. So I can't plant anything in here yet because, it's going to get squished. Now, these irrigation lines are just held down by these little staples. And all I need to do is just lift that up, move it over, and then the truck can get through. So I wasn't too worried about putting the irrigation line in first. Now, none of these projects were fun. They were all a lot of hard work. I actually do accounting during the day and in the evenings, and on the weekends I do landscape design and YouTube. So in between those times, I actually carved out some time. Every day I'd get home from work, get straight out of the car, come back here, spread soil, dig trenches, sit back and look at things, figure out what my issues were that needed to be solved, and have gotten this far. So now that this is all done, I'll be able to move that pile, cover up this area through here, and that will be finished. And I will be ready to plant over there. Now the irrigation line for there is going to come from this pipe. So what I have to do next, maybe it'll be Monday, we'll see, is I'm going to take this line, I'm going to dig a trench through here, I'm going to attach some brown poly pipe, take it all the way through here, run it through the trench that I made when I was digging the barrier between the grass, and that line is only going to water the back section back there, for the fruit trees and stuff that are back there. This line over here that I showed you earlier, that's going to water the front section through here. I'm not going to be building my irrigation drip grid yet. I need to get everything planted first. So the next steps, besides burying that line, which is not fun, is I've got to move the rest of this pile, leave enough to cover, whatever else I need to cover, which is not much. And I'm going to move that soil. And I'm going to move that soil out to here. And I'm going to be building up this bed. I'm just going to change the shape. This isn't the shape it's going to be, but I'm going to build it into this shape and fill it up with the soil back there. And I'll use the soil back there, and spread it over this area through here. And maybe even through that area there. So anyway, we've got more dirt spreading to do, but we're coming to the finish line. So after I bury this line and take it all the way to the back, and move this soil to the front, finish spreading that soil in the back, the very next step is to bring in the mulch. Now the reason I want to bring in the mulch first is I want them to bring in the big dump truck and dump it just like they did these piles of soil. I've only had to use the wheelbarrow just for a few areas. The rest of it I've been able to just spread with a rake, and that's what I want to do with the mulch, is I don't want to have to haul it from far away and dump it. I want to be able to use the least amount of energy as possible. So anyway, we've got those things to finish before I can plant. Now, there is one downside to all of this taking so long, and let me show you what that downside is. Now, because I'm a plant person and love plants so much, I jumped the gun and went and bought all of my plants way too early. I still don't have a place to plant them. And when I try and leave them inside, they get bugs, major bugs. So I've been having to haul them in and out depending on the weather. And look what I did to my beautiful, beautiful pawpaw. This was absolutely gorgeous. It was doing okay with the bugs, but I hauled them out one day, checked the weather. The weather looked like it was going to be fine. Here's another pawpaw right here. And what happened, it was my daughter's birthday, and it was before Mother's Day, and I just did not come home to see what was happening with my plants. And there was a huge, giant windstorm that was a little cold. It didn't freeze, but it was cold enough that it desiccated all the leaves. So I lost 1, 2, this one's coming back, but that's 3, 4 of my plants got completely desiccated and lost all their leaves, and they probably won't come back. The funny thing is my citrus, which should have been the ones that died, are thriving. So there's my avocado. It's doing great. My other citrus tree is doing great. This one right here, I'm going to need to watch. This is a brand new one that came yesterday. Look, it's got little fruits on it that I'll probably have to pull off. This is let's look at the back. It's a Giro persimmon. Because we've got another windstorm coming through, as you can see. My little Celeste fig did not fare so well through the winds, and the bugs have affected it more than anything. We've got some bananas down here that did absolutely fine, but they need to be planted. Got some brand new pomegranates that I don't want to die. But anyway, my plants do not appreciate being in pots. They need to be planted. So patience is important in gardening, and it's one thing that I have to keep learning over and over and over. I bought these plants thinking that I would have my projects done a little sooner than I have and be able to get them in the ground. I mean, it's still not that late. It's only mid-May. It's just that I don't do planted pots very well. So anyway, I am going to be happy that I am doing the important things first, the boring, hard work, important things first, because then my garden is going to be set up. So once the plants are planted, all the systems are in place, and they will grow beautifully. So anyway, that's my garden update for today, and we'll see how far I get for next week. And I would love to hear what you're doing in your gardens, if you have any new projects going, if you're enjoying this weather, if you're enjoying your gardening this year, and I hope you have a wonderful garden adventure this week.